Hey Cassie, I am making a video for you to show you how to feed your starter. I'd also like to make a video for how to make sourdough bread if you're interested, but for now, I'll just do a starter video. So this right here is the scale I use. I use a kitchen scale. Hopefully you have one because it makes it a lot easier to make it more accurate. And in this jar, I have about 26 grams of starter.
I can't get in this head.
You only need, okay, Sammy, can you help her? And you only need about like honestly, you only really need like a tablespoon worth of starter to get, to feed your starter. So this is my starter. I've had this starter now for like 2 years, and I got it from Christina, who had it for 5 years before that. So it's an old starter, and I'll bring you up some, when we see you. So when you're feeding a starter, the important thing to know is that you need at least equal parts starter to water to flour. So if I have 26 grams of starter here, I need at least 26 grams of water and at least 26 grams of flour. But you can even add more flour and water than that. So it can be like 1 part starter to 2 parts water to 2 parts flour, and that depends on how much starter, like active bubbly starter, you need for your recipe at the end of it. So I need 100 grams to, oh, thank you, Finley, that's very nice. I need 100 grams of starter altogether. I'm gonna hopefully make a loaf with milled flour for you. So I need, let me see, so I have 25 grams of starter. I want to be able to have 25 grams when I'm done with my recipe. So I'm actually just going to add 50 grams of water and 50 grams of flour to my 25 grams of starter. And that way, the 50 grams of flour and the 50 grams of water will give me 100 grams of starter to use tomorrow morning. So yeah, I'm just gonna zero out my scale here, and then I'm gonna add 50. Oh, see, I just added 52, but that's okay. So I added 52 grams of water. So now I'm gonna try now to add 52 grams of flour, because it should be about, the flour and water should be pretty equal. So 52, I zeroed out my scale again, and now I'm adding 52. There it goes. All right. 52 grams of flour, 52 grams of water. I'm going to mix all that up. So we have the 25 grams of starter in there mixed in with our perfectly equal flour and water. Again, it just has to be equal to the amount of starter you have, but it can be more than equal. And I'm mixing it all up. You want it all mixed together. I'm just using a knife. I think people sometimes use like wooden things, like you're not supposed to use metal, but it's never failed me yet, so that's what I do. And then as far as the jar size goes, I actually usually use like a bigger jar, but I'll probably bring this jar up and give this to you, with the starter, whenever hopefully we'll see you in a couple days. We'll see what the weather says. But anyway, okay, so that's all done, and I pushed it all down. And what I do is I like to put, where'd it go? I like to put a rubber band right where, let me see if I can find a rubber band. I like to put a rubber band right where it is. So right where all that dough is, I like to put the rubber band there. And that way I'll know when that starter has doubled, because that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to at least double, if not triple in size. So when you put your cap on, you just rest it on there. You're just keeping any dust and stuff like that from getting in, but you don't want to totally close it and turn it, because then if it gets overfilled, it'll like explode. So you don't want that to happen. So I just leave this right on my countertop or in a relatively warm place, not that warm, room temperature. And then hopefully tomorrow morning, this will be at least double, maybe if we're lucky, even triple. And that's a sign of a good, strong starter. And in the morning, I'll show you exactly what it kind of looks like. Oh, and another thing to know, you need to use, for your flour, you need to use unbleached flour. I always use unbleached bread flour, but I actually ran out of unbleached bread flour, and I went to BJ's just today, and they were completely out of bread flour. So today I'm using unbleached all-purpose flour, but it's fine. It doesn't really matter. Okay, all right. Hopefully we'll see tomorrow. Hello, Cassie. Welcome back to my sourdough making class, or as Patrick likes to call it, the Sour Ashley videos. So I'm gonna show you what the sourdough starter looks like. So this is what it looks like since like 10 o'clock last night, and it's 9 o'clock-ish right now. So this probably could go for another hour and maybe get a little bit higher, but I'm just gonna go ahead and make it now because when you open it up, it has a certain smell. That's kind of something you learn over time. It looks really bubbly. And if I were to stir this right now with like a knife or something, it would make a lot of like like breaking bubble sounds. And that's the sound of a good active sourdough starter. So that's what they call it, an active sourdough starter. The other stuff, like what I used yesterday to add to a jar, that's called, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking what it's called, but that's not active sourdough starter. This, when it's bubbly and it's raised up and it's fed, that is called active sourdough starter. So I'm going to show you how to make the bread. So I'm going to use the milled flour, and hopefully I'll be able to give you the loaf if we are able to get up there tomorrow. So my recipe is very simple. I use the same recipe with bread flour versus with wheat berries, milled wheat berries, because I'm lazy. You're not really supposed to do it that way, but I'm a rebel, you know? I like to do things my own way. So I add, first I add to the bowl, and I like to get a bowl with a cap, 300 grams. I don't know what that is in cups. I'll have to look it up. Yep, perfect, 300 grams. And then to that water, I add 100 grams of starter. Zero out my scale. And if I stir it, I don't know if you can hear all that bubbling, and that's the sound an active starter makes. Like I said, this probably could have gone another hour or two because it's kind of cool in my house. It can take anywhere from, how long would it take? It could take anywhere from like 8 hours to 12 hours, depending on how warm the room is. So I still have a little bit left in there. You only really need like a tablespoon worth to really get started. So it's in there, and I have a little bit more in the fridge if I need it, but that should be fine. That should be plenty. Okay. So another trick to knowing if your starter is ready to use is it should be able to float in the water, like a little piece of it. If you drop it into a cup of water or something, the piece will float. That's how you know it's active. If it sinks, that's discard. That's the word I was thinking of. Discard sourdough starter is when it's not active and bubbly. You're gonna discard it. You're gonna get rid of it. This right here, I can actually stick right into the fridge, and then the next time I'm ready to use it and make it in a recipe, I can pull it out and feed it. And that way you don't ever have to waste extra flour or water on it. It's ready to go. But you really shouldn't leave starter unfed for more than a week. So a week max. Any more than a week, and you're gonna need to really feed it a bunch of times to really get it back to its healthy, active state again. You don't need one of these, but I like it. This is a sourdough whisk or a dough whisk or something like that. And I'm just mixing my water and sourdough starter all together so it looks like one color. Okay, so I just mixed it. It's just sourdough starter and water mixed together. All right, so again, these are wheat berries. And I milled them with my mill. The fresher you use your wheat berries, like the fresher the milled is, or the sooner you use it after milling, the better the berries are. You're gonna get all those nutrients. So I just milled it just now, and you can see what it kind of looks like. It's gonna make your loaf way denser than a normal loaf. That's totally normal. There's ways to get around that while still using berries. Like you can sift this and take out all like the hard pieces, but then you're losing all the fiber. So I like to keep it in. I don't really care if the bread is dense. It still tastes good. It is a very strong taste compared to like bread flour. Some people like it, some people don't. I personally like to do milled flour mixed with bread flour. That's like my favorite way to do it. I don't usually do it that way because my family doesn't like it, but I usually do like a third milled wheat and then like 2/3 bread flour, unbleached bread flour. King Arthur flour is great. But in this case, if you want all those benefits of the milled wheat and you don't want you feel like your stomach might be bothered by regular white flour, then this is for you. There's a lot of benefits to it, but again, the sooner you use it, the better. Otherwise, you should really freeze it or keep it in the fridge, depending on how long you're going to be storing it for. So 300 grams of water, 100 grams of starter, and now 400 grams of flour. This is about the amount we need. I'm going to bring you up some more too, but I figured I'd just make you a loaf. There we go, 400 grams. Okay. Next thing you want to add is 8 to 10 grams of salt, depending on how salty you like your bread. I'm going to do 8 grams for now, in case you don't like it super salty. So I'm just going to zero that out. And then always use sea salt or natural salt. Don't use salt with iodine. It affects the texture, it affects the taste. It makes it more metallic tasting. So use iodine-free sea salt if you ever are picking out salts. Okay, so 8 grams. I have added too little salt in the past, like no salt at all, I mean, and it tastes really gross and the texture is horrible, so always add salt. And then I've added too much salt in the past, and I like it, but I like salty bread. Okay, so I added 9 grams, and now I'm gonna mix all of that all together. Let me just move this off. But I'm just using my whisk to get the ingredients mixed initially, and then I'll show you what I do next. It's very easy, honestly. This whole thing comes together very quickly. As long as you have an active starter, as long as your starter's strong, it's so easy. It's really not hard. All right, so I got that dough mixed together. It's starting to kind of come together. Okay, I washed my hands and I'm keeping them wet. And the idea is that it makes it a little bit easier to not get the dough stuck to your hands. So that's what the dough looks like now. So it's come together a lot, but now I'm just gonna take my hands and I'm gonna lift and just kind of fold it over itself a few times. Now this feels very differently than a bread flour loaf would, than a regular white bread flour loaf would. It's gonna feel very different. Oh, one more thing is I'm noticing it now because on my hands, it's very warm. The dough is very warm. I used warm water. It doesn't have to be any specific temperature, just warm, not hot, not cold. You can do cold, but it'll take longer to ferment, but warm water. Okay, so I'm just kind of bringing it together, and you can't really over mix at this part. So don't worry about over mixing, but I just do it for a couple minutes or a couple seconds really until it's kind of together. Now this bread, no matter how many times you do stretch and folds on it, really won't rise very much. It's very dense. It's just a dense bread because of all those delicious fibrous pieces in there. So anyway, all right, I'll just kind of put it into one ball. So that's what it looks like. And I'm gonna cover it up. And what we're gonna do is in about 45 minutes to an hour, we're gonna do something called a stretch and fold, and you're gonna do 4 of those stretch and folds over the course of like 3 or 4 hours. And that helps the dough to rise. Now, again, this dough will not rise that much. It's gonna look like a hockey puck, I guess. It'll be moist inside, it'll be delicious, but because it's so dense and heavy, it's not gonna have that pretty rise. But I'm still gonna show you the stretch and folds so that I think you still should do it even with this kind of dough. And then also, if you ever wanna make bread flour dough, you'll see what a stretch and dough is like. Again, this is the same recipe I use for bread flour versus milled flour because I'm lazy and I don't really feel like it needs a big change. Okay, see you in 45 minutes. Okay, so now for the stretch and folds. I'm gonna take, this has been sitting now for about 45 minutes. To do a stretch and folds, you want to wash and wet your hands. Remember, don't dry your hands, or at least keep one hand wet. And what you're doing is you're basically pulling up a side and you're folding it over again. This is a lot more difficult when you have bread flour. I'm sorry, looking at this the opposite way. You're lifting up a side, folding it over, and you're just going around the whole circle, and you're doing that 4 or 5 times. And you're lifting it up and you're folding it over. You can see how dense that dough is. That's just milled wheat loaves. That's just how they look. When you have bread flour, it's much smoother, it's more elastic, it's more bubbly and light. But this is pretty heavy. And once you're done doing that, just leave it in there again. And then what you're doing is you want to do anywhere from 3 or 4 sets of stretch and fold. So I'm going to come back in 45 minutes and do that same thing again. And then after that, I'm going to come back another 45 minutes later and do another stretch and fold. So at least 3. 4 is probably best practice. I've done 2 and it's fine. So secrets of the trade. I don't know that it matters that much, but I still think you're supposed to do it like 4 times. So again, 3 or 4 of those, and that's as easy as it is. It's really not hard at all. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to shape your dough and to put it into a Banneton basket and how to go about proofing your dough. So first you want to have a few things. You want to have some rice flour. I mill this rice flour from rice. I put it right into my mill, but you can also buy rice, or you can put the rice into your blender or whatever. But rice is good because it doesn't soak into the dough. And so the dough won't stick to your basket or your bowl or whatever you use. And it also won't soak into your dough, making your dough too floury. So this is a Banneton basket. I think your mom has one too. And you could use just a bowl and put like a linen cloth in there too. That's fine. This is nice because it allows the dough to breathe, I guess. I don't know. Anyway. So I'm going to take this thing. I love this one. I don't know if you have one of these, but I'm just going to get some rice flour in my Banneton basket. You don't ever have to clean the Banneton basket. You just have to make sure you completely dry it out each time you use it. So this is all dried out, and it's almost like a seasoning on it. And anyway, so it's just rice flour in there. And now we're going to take some regular flour, and we're going to put it right here on our surface where we're going to shape our dough. And you're just going to lightly flour that. And I got my dough here. It's like at least doubled in size, and it's nice and poofy. It might be a little underproofed that I'm looking at it, but I think it's okay. So we're going to toss it onto here. All right, and I'm just to shape it, you can spread it out like a big rectangle and then fold it into thirds, so like that, and then roll it up, starting on one side, roll it up like that. And now what you want to do is you're going to take it away from you and pull it towards you and then push it away. And as you're doing that, you're kind of tucking in those funny looking ends so that you get a nice round shape. Now this is much easier with bread flour dough because this dough is so dense. And you can see, you normally have to be very gentle with this dough because, with like bread flour dough, because you lose all those bubbles. But this dough is 100% going to lose all of its bubbles anyway. It's going to be very dense, and that's okay. But I'm just letting you know that's normal for this dough. Okay, so I made it into a little ball, and now I'm going to put it face down or top down into my basket, and that's the top. That's all I do. I'm going to cover it up with a shower cap. I like these shower caps because they fit right over it. There we go. Now, normally, when you want, so fermentation is the process in here. Fermentation starts as soon as when you get all your dough mixed together. Today, this has been fermenting for about 10 hours, maybe. So Probably could have gone a little longer. I'm not sure, but we're gonna find out. Proofing is after you get it shaped and into your basket. This is the proofing stage now. Kind of like normal bread where, you got to let it proof that second time through. So normally what I do is I put this whole thing into the fridge for at least 8 hours, up to 48 hours. The longer you leave it in the fridge, the more sour it'll taste because you develop that flavor. So 8 hours is usually what I do, 8 to 10 hours, because I like it less sour. But today I'm going to do it a little differently, and I'm actually going to leave this on the either the table in the dining room, or it's a little bit warmer in there, and let it proof for a few hours on the table, and then bake it from there. But I do recommend the fridge because as you'll see in the next video where I kind of show what it looks like with a bread loaf and baking that bread loaf, it helps it hold its shape better when the dough is cold. But in this case, because I'm going to be up late tonight for New Year's, I figured I could just stay up and bake it tonight. That way we can leave tomorrow morning and I don't have to wait for this to bake. So this is going to go on the thing, and then we'll get it in the oven, and we'll got to score it, which means cutting that line down it, and then stick it in the oven, and all right, I'll see you in a few hours. Hey, so we're going to bake the dough now. Hi, say hi to Aunt Cassie.
Hello, Aunt Cassie. You can see me.
So we have our Bantam basket. I ended up, it got nice and big there, and I ended up sticking it in the fridge because it poofed up so fast. It proofed so quickly. So I put it in the fridge for about 30 minutes or so. And what's nice about it being cold is that it keeps its shape a little better. So I'm just going to put this on top of my basket and flip it over. Okay, and there's my dough. You see the rice flour is all on top there. I'm just gonna smooth out that rice flour. And now when you score this dough, it will flatten quite a bit. It's just the way this dough works. It's just because it's looking to release all of it. So I preheated my Dutch oven in the oven at 475 degrees for 20 minutes, or actually maybe even 30 minutes. So it's really boiling lava hot. And as soon as I'm done scoring this, I'm gonna stick it in the Dutch oven, which is super hot. And then I'm going to add a little bit of water underneath, maybe I'll get something out. And then I'm going to add some water underneath the parchment paper, and that will add steam to inside of the Dutch oven, and we'll give it a nice crispy crust, hopefully. Okay, so let's score this thing. Scoring is just putting a line. I do it on the side here at like a 45-degree angle, about 1/4 of an inch in to 1/2 an inch in. So I'm just going to go right down. You can make all kinds of fancy designs with it, but I just do a nice simple line. Yeah, and that's so that it doesn't explode in different directions, like it doesn't, because the air will escape, but we want to control where the air escapes from. Sorry about my hair, by the way. I just got out of the shower. So, okay, now I'm going to put my thing right here, and it's very hot. Stick this in here. And then I have about 1/4 cup of water. Doesn't have to be exact. And I'm going to put it underneath the parchment paper. There it is, sizzling away. And now I'm going to put this cap on and stick in the oven for 20 minutes. After the 20 minutes is up, you are going to take the cap off of the Dutch oven. Or the top off the Dutch oven, and then you're going to bake it for an additional 35 minutes. I leave it at the same temperature of 475. There's a million different ways to do it. Everybody likes their bread differently. This is just the way I do it. So that's it, and we'll get some good looking bread here real soon. Okay, and here is, it's very hot. Ow, it hurts. Put my gloves on. Okay, here is the loaf. So this is what an all milled loaf looks like. It's very dense, flat. But when you cut it open, and you put some butter on it. Just right. It's very good. So yeah, I'm gonna show you also in the next video what it looks like when you've baked a regular bread loaf too, so you can kind of compare it. So yeah, all right, Cassie, I hope all this helps. Bye. So this is another loaf of bread. This was made with regular bread flour, and it's been in the fridge now overnight. I made up the dough and stuff like that. I did all that other stuff yesterday. So it's ready to bake. It's been proofing for about 12 hours, I'd say, maybe a little bit more, maybe more like 14. It needs to proof in the fridge for at least 8 hours, up to 48 hours, depending on how sour you like it. We don't really like our sourdough bread super sour, so we try to keep the amount of proof time. That's what it's called when it goes in the fridge, or a cold proof, whatever it's called. Anyway, we like to keep it to a minimum. So it's been in there for about 12, 14 hours, something like that. So it's in my Banditson basket. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this parchment paper and I'm gonna flip it onto the paper. Okay, and then there's some extra rice flour on top here. So I'm just gonna kind of rub that off. We're gonna eat this for dinner tonight. So I have a razor here. You can use a really, really sharp knife or kitchen shears too. But what we have to do is we have to basically draw a line on this. And that line is going to help the air escape without it like exploding in other various spots. And so the loaf will look a lot prettier. So I'll show you. I go in about, I don't know, I think that's like 1/4 to 1/2 inch maybe. I go in and I just cut a hole. There's all sorts of fancy designs you can do. I've never been one for fancy designs. Now I'm just going to take it up. I'm gonna put my gloves on, and I've been preheating my Dutch oven thing for about 20 minutes in the oven at 400 degrees. There's lots of ways to do this. This is just the way I do. It's the way I like my bread. So I'm sorry, did I say 400? I'm sorry, my oven's messed up. It's actually 475, sorry. At 475 degrees, it's been preheating for 20 minutes. Use a Dutch oven. And I'm gonna take the cap off. Get a little smoky. And I'm gonna stick my parchment paper with the dough into the Dutch oven, like so. It's okay if the paper sticks out. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take about 1/4 cup of water. It's not an exact amount, but it's about 1/4 cup. And I'm gonna put it underneath, I wish I could show you. I'm gonna put it underneath the parchment paper. Pour it to the side here. You can hear it start to sizzle. That's not where the dough is, that's underneath the parchment paper in the Dutch oven. And then I'm gonna put the cap on. And this is gonna go in the oven for 20 minutes. After that 20 minutes is up, I'm going to remove the cap and I'm going to continue baking it for 35 minutes at the same temperature. That's how I do it. Again, there's lots of ways to do it. This is how I've done it a million different ways. This is the way we prefer our bread, with a darker crust. Okay, so 20 minutes with the cap on, 35 minutes with the cap off at 475 degrees in a preheated Dutch oven inside of an oven. As you can see here, we have our just finished bread flour loaf. So this is made with bread flour. This is, again, made with a preheated oven of 475 with a Dutch oven in it, 20 minutes with the cap on, 35 minutes with the cap off. And I get it looking like crusty and bubbly and pretty like that with a delicious crust by putting a little bit of water underneath the parchment paper. That really helps to make the crust really crispy and yummy. It will not look like this when you receive your old milled wheat one. It will look a lot denser, flatter, but they're both good for eating, you know, so that's it.